to do that. Number one is this. The sphere is family and social services. Family and social services, which is God's first expression of love in the universe, was family. The first thing God did when he wanted to express who he was and his character to the world was create family. Families are foundational to every single culture on the planet and are the centerpiece of life. It is no wonder the enemy is attacking the family at its very root system. Because without the family, there is no society. Without the family, there is no culture. Without the family, there is no building of young people into adults. And the family is God's number one sphere of influence. God started with the family in the Garden of Eden, a husband and a wife, and they bore children. He chose a people to belong to him, and he called them by his name and by family. He identified himself with the children of Israel. One of his favorite names to be identified with in Scripture is Father, and the church is affectionately known as his bride. He's referred to as the husband, who refers to us as sons and daughters. The number one sphere of influence in all of the universe and the kingdom of heaven is not the pulpit, it is not the classroom, it is the family. Yet, it gets overlooked for other vocations and callings we think are more important. As a matter of fact, a godly education begins at home, discipleship begins at home, and influence begins at home. Until you get that right, there is no other ministry at all. And so we need to know that as a believer, if I'm going to have influence, it starts at home. I remember years ago, there was this young youth pastor at our church, and he came in, and you could tell he was upset, and he was kind of throwing a fit, and we found out he was mad at his wife. I mean, it was really bad. So we said, maybe let's go to lunch. He's like, man, I just can't stand her. I can't stand this. And it was just bitter, all this bad. And one of the guys with us took a water bottle. He took the cap off. He said, you see this cap? He said, that's your marriage. That's your family. He says, if it's empty, you have no ministry. Begin to pour water in the cap. He says, and whatever overflows out of that, that is your ministry. And I would tell you, if you don't have influence in your family, in your marriage, you have no influence anywhere else. Because people won't believe what you're telling them if what you're telling them contradicts how you're living at home. Paul told this to Timothy, an amazing preacher in Ephesus, in 2 Timothy 1. He says, I'm reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois, and then in your mother Eunice, and now I'm sure dwells in you as well. For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. He was saying that, Timothy, you are the byproduct, not of my preaching. This is the Apostle Paul. He's not even saying that. He's not even saying you're a byproduct of me laying my hands on you. He's not saying you're a byproduct of my incredible preaching. He's not saying you're a byproduct of my ministry. He's saying you are a byproduct of the influence of your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, which tells us the power of the gospel is contingent on the local family. And so we need stay-at-home moms who view their calling not as a burden, but as a calling. Here's single moms, well, I'm missing out on my career. No, your best career you could ever have. And I wish everybody, I know not everybody, even stay-at-home dads, the greatest calling you could have is to invest the most developmental years of your kids' life, to invest in them, their identity, the foundations of Scripture, and the gospel, and who they are, who they're not. Because if you don't do it, they're going to do it at school, and they will tell them they can be whatever gender they want to be. They can tell them they can do whatever they want to do, and they're going to live lives that have the fruit thereof. And I know it's hard raising young kids, but it is a calling that you're not just raising kids, you're raising Timothys. We need dads who view themselves as priests, not just breadwinners or little league coaches. That your sphere of influence is not on the ball field, it's in the bedroom with your kids as you tuck them in at night to read the Scriptures over them. We need foster moms and dads who see their homes as their mission field in life. We need social workers that are on the front lines of the kingdom of heaven to advance God's kingdom through the families that are broken and torn apart. Like, it is a calling, it's a sphere of influence that's needed to advance God's kingdom. And an example family here at the chapel is Bobby and Amy Klingen. If you'll throw them up there. Bobby and Amy are incredible moms and dads. I had Bobby preach last fall on fathers and parenting because they've done it. One, I'm a firm believer, you do not judge somebody by what they say, but the fruit thereof. And I've watched them raise 3 beautiful, amazing, godly young girls into young women. Watched it. Let's show the fruit. And then they started over by adopting their 4 beautiful, handsome sons. And they've done it in such an incredible way with the girls. If they could just found somebody for Layla and Mary besides Aaron Howard, which is the detriment to the entire family. Outside of that, they're pretty much perfect. They've done it. And the key to influencing in the household, like with them, is creating an environment of love and truth. An environment of love and truth. Because in the world, there's environments of love, even if they're not real love, and there's environments of truth. But you need both, because an environment of love is the only place where God's created people flourish. But you also need truth, because that's the foundation where love actually grows. And so if you're a foster mom, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a dad, all of you need to know, my job, if I want to grow an influence in my household, is to create an environment of love and truth, writing scriptures on the wall, talking about the scriptures, unconditional love, non-judgment environments where love and truth flow and reign, and you'll see the influence in your household increase. And you have examples like Bobby and Amy. The second one